A recent article to set the taste buds tingling for all you conspiracy theorists out there is asking more questions than what it is giving answers to. So let's get right into it.
Yep.
Let's find out what it is. ARO, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, is a US Ministry of Defense organization. It was set up in 2022 to look into the UFO question and having free access to all the classified documents on the subject from the Ministry of Defense. And in 2024, it released a report of their findings, and it seems like the US, or rather the Pentagon, has been telling a lot of porcupines.
Really?
It seems that all these stories we've been listening to about Area 51 and their dealings with aliens and alien spacecraft was all a bit of a ruse to hide the fact that they were working on top secret military aircraft. And the fibbing has been going on since the 1950s. 1950s.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did they manage to pull this off? How did they manage to do this? Well, they got a loudmouth colonel, armed him with some fake photos, and let him loose in a bar to share with people to start the rumors of aliens and UFOs going.
Mm.
Also within the base, they held false briefings explaining to the Air Force personnel that they were working on extraterrestrial vehicles, and they also said they had to keep quiet, otherwise they would be put in prison. It's a top secret clearance sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's covered anyway, probably. Yeah. But yeah.
The staff were not allowed to discuss with other staff what they had heard in the briefings, and of course, human beings being human beings, some were not able to contain themselves and had to tell somebody
Mm.
about the information they'd received. Some went to outsiders like journalists, thus strengthening the rumours that the Pentagon itself wanted to spread.
Oh, well, yeah.
Why did the Pentagon want to do this? Well, they decided that if there were enough stories about spaceships being taken into Area 51, they would be able to hide the real reason why they were there, which of course was the secret craft that
Mm.
they were developing for the armed services.
Okay. Yeah.
And consequently, the Russians would not be able to determine which rumors were true and also which rumors weren't.
Mm.
And so everything was kept under a huge smokescreen.
Mm.
If the Pentagon managed to pull this off since the 1950s and at Area 51, and in fact, if it is true,
Mm.
then the question is open to be asked if they've ever used the same tactics for other projects, like NASA, for example.
Oh.
If, on the other hand, the whole thing from the report is false, that means that Groom Lake was in fact dealing with extraterrestrial craft. Elon Musk said recently that we are the extraterrestrials, and that in all of his work in rockets, satellites, and space, he's never found evidence of visits from beings from other planets ever to have taken place here
Mm.
on Earth.
Yeah.
And so when retired colonels and generals from the Air Force and military swear that extraterrestrial craft were being reverse engineered at Area 51, it was either true or they would have been exposed to a false briefing.
Mm.
Either way, they believed it was true.
Yeah.
And all the authors of all the books about aliens and alien crafts could have taken the information from some of these concerned servicemen, adorned the information a little bit, and put them onto bookshelves to be sold as the truth. And also, not to forget, making quite a bit of money in the process.
Mm.
So for me personally, it does seem a little odd that a military department would go to such lengths as to try and hide their secret inventions, and perhaps, by not saying anything, might have drawn less attention to Area 51. And of course, if they use the same tactics on NASA, it might explain why men hasn't returned to the moon in such a long time.
Oh, you're getting on your. Yeah, yeah, okay,
That
all
is,
right.
of course, if we went there at all. Ta-ta!
Oh, oh, you're crossing a line there, mate. Okay, yeah,
I just put that little bit, it just put the cat amongst the pigeons.
yeah, yeah, okay. I can explain a few things about that, but yeah. Okay. Well, to begin with, okay, conspiracy theorist. Yeah, okay, it's up to you. Um, I don't think anyone really fell. I mean, okay, in the 1950s, there were lots of films and everything else about aliens and invasions from Mars. Okay, even yeah, I mean, okay, read War of the Worlds and other books as well. Yeah, okay, I liked it all. I took it when it was fiction, even as a youngster. I mean, yes, I used to watch Arthur C. Clarke and other things, and he was perpetrating about that. There's yeah, it's the Drake's equation. Yeah, how what is the likelihood of alien life existing? And yes, there's a very very strong likelihood that somewhere out there there's other life forms. Yeah, whether or not they'll be the same technology as us or more advanced or behind or anything else. Okay, that's the big argument. Okay, um, I can't. I think if they were visiting, we'd already know about it. Um, given and yeah, I'll break into this about the Russians in a minute as well. Um, yeah, I mean, to say we're alien, we are aliens. We are effectively made up of um, components that are not of this earth originally. Yeah, no, that's about that as well. So you could argue we're aliens at that point anyway. Yeah, um, yeah, and we are intelligent beings. Okay. Um, Now I'm going to look at this. Were the Russians actually fooled? I don't think they were. I think they always knew what that area was. Yeah, it's a trick that the Russians wouldn't be backward at putting themselves. Yeah. Um, this is
Well,
what I always say.
but
Um,
in Russia they have their close encounters too.
yeah, as I was going to
It's
say,
just
yeah.
that we don't know about them because we don't read Russian.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that came out after the Cold War, but the Russians have never really gone for. I mean, the Russians kept things quiet or used subject. I mean, it's the old classic. The carrots are good for your eyes. That came from World War II with the invention of the radar. They were putting it about for the Germans. Why the British pilots so good at shooting us down? Well, because I can see you because they eat carrots. Carrots are something and for years that still survives today. It's complete nonsense. Yeah, sorry for anyone that still believes that. But
Well,
yeah,
I've never seen a rabbit wearing glasses,
well, yeah. I was going to say, don't stop eating carrots because carrots are actually very healthy for you in other ways. So please don't stop eating carrots, even if you
and
do
they're
it.
good for your eyes.
Yeah, yeah. On that strength alone, I've always eaten a lot of carrots, and I still wear glasses. Yeah, um, yeah.
I'm not going there.
I'm not. Yeah, not going to go. I don't know if I had that carrot, but yeah. So I mean, yeah, there's always been used different things, and okay, if you make an incredibly enough story, people think, well, nobody would make that one up. Yeah, like a bit like saying there is this mass infection that came from a bat in a Chinese wet market. Yeah, who would question that? You know, good God, that's such an incredible story. It must be true. Yeah. Um, you know, people were ready to believe anything if it sort of things. I mean, yes, a few years ago there was going to be the mass running at it. They can't arrest all of us sort of thing onto Area 51. Yeah. Um, now I think I've known. I mean, I was a fan of the X Files as well. Yeah, I enjoyed watching the X Files on TV, like anyone else would. You knew it was complete bunk, but it was good fun. Yeah. And who doesn't like a good alien story? Be it E.T., the nice friendly one, or, you know, we grew up in Star Wars, or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. All this was about, yeah. It was feeding into the notion. I mean, yeah, you could keep it going because Hollywood was doing it, yeah, all the time. Before that, you got, yeah, Forbidden Planets and, yeah, When Worlds Collide, or I forgot what it was, the other ones. I should know them all from the 1950s as well. I just wonder if maybe there was government money funding some of these films to keep perpetuating the rumor. I've just thought of that. Where did people get the money to make these nonsensical films? Yeah. But yeah.
if the story is true, if the article is true,
Mm,
right,
uh,
and there's nothing because I mean, where I got the article from,
mm,
it isn't a, it wasn't a like an alternative website or anything
no,
like
no,
that.
no.
Quite a respectable
Mm,
source.
yeah.
And if the article is true and the Pentagon did lie since the 1930s,
Mm,
then that would mean that almost every UFO sighting story of UFO sighting is false, and and all these people that were investigating in UFOs have been barking up the wrong tree. And something tells me that perhaps they might have let this story go, and the
mm,
story is actually false,
mm.
just to keep just to keep people from pestering them, you know?
Right. Um, right. Yeah, I do believe people believe they saw something. I mean, like we can all argue, we've all probably seen something that resembles that we haven't been able to understand ourselves.
Close,
Yeah.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind was based on five stories
Yeah.
of people witnessing UFOs.
But um, yeah, I mean, people have always seen strange things. I mean, yes, if you go back read ancient times, sometimes we see things that are unexplained. Yeah, I mean, my core belief is something that I can't explain. How somebody, yeah, I mean, yeah, the ultimate supernatural story, if you like. Um, I'm, I, I don't believe. I believe that it was always at best yeah, a ruse or something else. Yeah, I never believed it since I was quite young, and I grew up with films, and as you know, I love the films. I love being entertained. Yeah. Um, I'm not saying that aliens don't exist. I don't know. Like I said, I know about the equations and everything else, and lots of learned people said, well, there's every chance that there is an alternative, there is other life elsewhere.
Oh, it's a chance.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at is the fact that if it's true,
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I'll get onto that. Yeah. Mass
the,
hysteria, or is there
the
something else? Yeah.
Pentagon went to an awful lot of trouble to plan all this out and they had a high risk of failing because if somebody early on said we were told this, but the reality is that it's just not true, we were
Well,
lied to.
there were naysayers at the time as well. There were lots of naysayers at the time as well. So,
Not
um,
within the ranks. That's the thing.
I mean,
There were in civil, there were in civil in Civvy Street, but they weren't from the rank and
well,
file military members.
okay, well, okay. If you belong to the military, you're told, well, keep this under wraps. And even if you knew it was false, you're meant to keep things. I mean, yeah, they do sign a bit of paper that say, I mean, okay, there's always things leak out. There probably were things leaked out and they were dismissed. Okay. You'd have to have a deeper look at it all. Um, now, I, now you've just touched again on something that you go on about the moon landing. Yeah. I still believe the moon landing happened. I still believe that there was a technology, and I still believe the technology still exists today to get man on the moon. It costs a lot of money to achieve very, very little at the moment. Yeah. That's why we haven't been back since 1972. There's just too much evidence to say. The
Well,
ultimate would the
we have.
ultimate. Okay.
Yes, we have. We have. They've sent them sonders up there. They sent them things, the little robots that they've
Oh yeah,
set up.
the road, yeah, gone robot Mars. Yeah, you can do that. But yeah, what I'm talking about, man walking, actually
There is
physically.
still there
Yeah,
is still quite a lot to do on the moon.
yeah, and maybe you got to formulate a plan and justify it. Yeah, I mean, at the moment there's a big discussion about budgeting in the US already as it is. You know, you could blow the budget on getting to the moon. What you just gonna do? Have another Neil Armstrong down, jump down there again, do a do a jig on there and come back again. Yeah, you got to have a there's got to be a reason to go there. Either you're going to set up a moon base or a base where people can inhabit for whatever various reasons, or there's a good chance that you're going to be beneficial from the moon, or it's a springboard for going other places. Yep. I think that has to be justified, and it's a big risk. It is a risky operation. always has been. Yeah. And today, people are more worried about health and safety and losing people than they were, yeah, in the 1960s and 1970s. Okay. So, yeah, there's a squeamish thing. Yeah. But I think there's too much evidence to say that it did have that man did walk on the moon, be it Americans. The Russians nearly achieved it. The Russians nearly achieved it. Um, I think the biggest thing would be the Russians knew just about everything the Americans did. If the Russians were more than suspicious it didn't happen, they'd have been jumping up and down and shouting about it. Yeah. At that time, it was a very, very cold war. Yeah. If the Russians thought they could prove something, they would have done it. They didn't. Yeah. Which proves to me that, which puts, if you like, eliminates any doubts I have. Yeah. Okay. Somebody next week could say, well, it didn't happen. Yeah. Where's bring the receipts? Okay, the studio sets and all that. I mean, yes, they did build studio sets to practice with and ideas on that. Yeah, that's never been denied. I mean, there's a lot that's been said that's never been denied for good reason because it did exist.
Well,
Um,
there you go. That's the whole point of this podcast.
yeah, but the whole point of the podcast, I mean,
All of a sudden, it hasn't been denied that the Pentagon was lying.
of course it hasn't been denied because it's complete nonsense. It always has been. It's so obvious. Yeah.
I think you're missing the point.
No, okay. Does it put everything else in question? Okay, yeah. How can you do that? Yes. Is the article fake? We've no look. Since I've been reading a lot about this, that's why I smiled when you first came in with it. Um, there's always been a question what Area 51 was, and I've not heard. I've always heard this. It's because they were doing other experiments there. Yeah.
We're not talking about Area 51 anymore.
No, we've got
I'm,
on to
I,
the global
I,
thing of the
I-
Pentagon putting out rumors. Yes,
that's right.
governments
That,
do. Governments always have done since Roman
but
times. Yeah.
not to this extreme, sir.
Well, I would say it's probably one of the easiest things to do, given the background in the 1950s and people were jumping onto more mass
Yes,
communications and
at that time,
yeah,
but times moved on,
yeah,
and
but
they've been sustaining this lie for a long time,
I,
for 20, 30, 40 years.
I don't think they really have. I think it's there. It's just never been denied or it's never been confirmed. Um, why would I waste time if I was an operation like the Pentagon stating the blinking obvious? Yeah. It's a restricted area. It's not the only restricted area in the US. Yes, you will be arrested if you go there. I know people have managed to get in there and seen absolutely nothing. Yeah. Because
I'm still on about the Pentagon here.
yeah.
I'm talking about if the Pentagon has been seen to be lying for 40 years, then how can anybody trust the Pentagon anymore?
Does anyone trust the
Those that did trust the Pentagon.
Well, okay. Does the Pentagon use? I mean, the Pentagon is going to be involved in the subterfuge industry, just the spying industry, just as much as anyone else. It doesn't want everyone knowing its business. Okay, it will put out false stories. All militaries do that. Even to their own staff, they've been doing that. That's been going on.
For 40 years.
Well, so look, it's been going on for 40 years. Hang on. There's a whole industry that we all bought into called the entertainment industry that's been self-perpetuating it as well. Yeah.
Because they believed it was true, sir.
Ah, filmmakers don't believe half of what they make. If that, probably less than that.
Unless of course unless of course it's a fantasy. So you get the third rock from the sun,
Yeah.
the
Okay. Well, yeah.
comedy show, right?
Yeah.
That's a fantasy,
Yeah.
right? Built on the
Well,
idea that built on the idea that has been coming out of Area 51, that there is such thing as an alien and a alien craft. But to find out now that the Pentagon has been lying about it all this time, that sort of puts a wet squib on everything.
well, I don't know. I mean, yes. Look, militaries are going to be involved in things, and I mean, I can imagine someone in the Pentagon still having a laugh about it all now, occasionally putting a press release out. Look, and feeding. I mean, I think a lot. I mean, okay, you can say, oh, they've been lying to the American people. They probably have, but it's a lie that people happily took because it was a bit of fantasy, a little bit of a diversion. Who's really that bothered? Was it a threat? Um, I mean,
You've seen
okay, the military aren't going to tell you everything they're up to. That was a development area. It was a research and development area, and that's always been known. Yeah,
you've seen the War of the Worlds,
I know what it was. Yeah,
right? Yeah, right. And so
heat
you
rays,
know that
everything.
half the population of New York or wherever it was believed
It was in London, based in London.
that
Yeah.
they were under attack by, right. That is what a lie does for you.
Oh yeah, the Orson Welles, the radio
Yeah,
show. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. That again, it was overblown, but yes, it did make people concerned because it was the way it was done. It was done like a news broadcast at
There
the
you are.
time. Yeah.
There you are. So when the Pentagon says, when a colonel comes up to you and says, "Look, this is what I found out about Area 51,"
Mm.
and he tells you, you you either if you don't believe him, you don't believe him. But if you do, yeah, you're going to take that story on, and
Oh,
you're going
okay.
to be thinking that he's credible.
Well, okay. Anything. I mean, okay. Yeah, we reverse it. I mean, you use the right phrase, reverse engineering alien technology. Yeah, to make faster aircraft or faster this or yeah. I mean, um, yeah. I mean, happened a lot in World War Two, where different things were going on and Bletchley, etc. Yeah, like okay, it's all come out since then. Mind you, they destroyed the computers quick enough, which was a bit of a shame, but there we go. They've rebuilt them all now. They've got them all functioning again, or they've redone them all there. Um, I mean, I don't. It's not shaken my faith in military in that sense. Yeah. Have I been lied to by government bodies? I think that happens every day sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But
Um,
we're talking about sustained lie
yeah.
over at least 40 years, 40,
Yeah.
50 years.
Well, okay. Did I believe in aliens have visited the Earth? No, I've never believed it since I was about 18. No, probably for about 15
So
years
you're
old.
one that, so you're one that didn't. And what about those that did?
Well,
Because the government said so.
I think I've been sitting. Well, I think a majority of people didn't believe it than believed it, actually. Um,
All of those congresses for UFO spotters are now going to be, they're going to have to cancel them all.
well, not really. That was like a Comic Con get together. They really were. They'll
Well,
find another reason to get
but that,
together.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, that subject, they just won't be able to cover it anymore because it was all a lie.
Well, it's kind of tied in with astronomy. I mean, you watch any program about astronomy or series, and eventually, at some point, they'll start talking about possibility of alien life and visiting the Earth and everything else. So yeah, it's not totally gone. Um, it's the probability of it doing it. It's how they would do it. It's the possibility. I don't think these people are going to be unemployed for a long time yet. Um, I think yeah, we got more of a general understanding about things, and yeah, there's more of an understanding of the the difficulties in traveling across long distances. We don't have wormholes. We can't travel faster than the speed of light. That will never happen. Yeah, sorry, Star Trek. You know, I like Star Trek. I like the idea of it, but it will never happen for a lot of different reasons. Theoretically, it could happen. Yeah, Einstein proved it, but yeah, in reality, even if we get to a high level of technology, yeah. Um, I again, I don't think it's shaken my overall trust issues that I had. I just put it this way: I
Because
haven't.
you like just said, you've never believed. So there you are.